The LYB podcast is sponsored by Fight Energy. Fight Energy is your all-in-one health drink. You have nootropics, 0 calories, 125 milligrams of caffeine, as well as your daily dose of vitamins to keep you feeling your best. You can order Fight at danityfitness.com. Make sure you use code LYB for 25% off. And we're even going to throw in some travel packs for any purchase. And let us know, are you team strawberry or team blueberry? And when you drink Fight, make sure to tag Danity Fitness 1 on socials to share. Hey everyone, welcome to the LYB podcast. Today we have Anthony Vigilante, which I love that name. It's always like a superhero for me. Did you like dress up like that when you were little? Did you like, were you?
I dressed up a lot as a Power Ranger when I was little. Okay. So superhero-y. I was depends on
the mood.
What year we're talking about. I did the red. Red was my favorite color growing up. I think there's another one of me as...
I'm just imagining him at like 19 years old right now.
Me as a full-grown adult.
You're like the other day. I was like...
But then there was a year, and this kind of almost haunts me to a bit because my cousins still make fun of me for it, where I was the MAGA defender.
Okay.
And he's just a villain in it, and like 6-year-old me was like, I'm the MAGA defender. And then like they will still make fun of me to this day.
Yeah, I definitely would as well. So no, but that's awesome. Well, tell me real quick, because I don't even know, like we know each other through, I guess like Nashville Fit Magazine, right? And probably like going on like almost a year, I would say.
Yeah.
Maybe something like that. First off, tell them real quick where you're from, how old you are, all the good things, and then we'll get into that.
Okay. Originally born and raised Staten Island, New York.
Okay.
Moved to Nashville about 2 years ago. 28 years old, turned 29 in 20-ish days, March 15th.
Ooh,
so
okay.
I have a countdown to the start of daylight saving times, not to my birthday.
Okay, there you go. So it's like knocking it out. Like
what's more important right now is sunlight instead of me turning 29.
Well, yeah, because we were just talking before we got on, like, about energies and everything. I know you're really big on that because you're a personal trainer also. Yep. So when you have, multiple clients coming in and kind of everyone cyclically being like, yeah, it sucks. Like the weather is not great. How are you kind of dealing with that? Do you feel like you kind of have to give extra of yourself to kind of supplement, or how's that been?
Well, with any client, it's always read energy. Yeah. What do they need? What do I need to give? But I'm also usually just like a calm.
Yes.
I try to be a calm presence to whoever comes in. So I don't get too high. I don't get too low with my clientele. It's more of like, we're leading through this workout. Yeah. I help provide to give you the energy. The workout should provide energy for you because movement is good for us.
Right.
But I'm not the type of coach who's going to be like, all right, here we go, let's do it.
Blah, blah, blah. Me neither. Yeah. It's always so funny when clients see me do MoveFit for the first time because they're like looking around. They're like, wait, what's going on?
I don't know this coach.
Right, literally, because they're so used to how I am. And then vice versa too. When people from MoveFit, like if they ever come to, train and stuff like that, they're like, wow, this is not what I thought. I'm like, no, it's totally different. Like that's like stage presence. Danny's on
group fitness is also just a different animal.
Yes, 100%. And that's why it's always so funny because you do group fitness as well, right?
Yeah.
So like people have always had a hard time understanding that. And I think that's interesting. I'm like, it's two totally separate things. And a lot of times I'm like, oh no, it's just like this, like whatever. I'm like, no. When there's a beat going and we're doing movements to the beat in the class and whatever, like I'm through the roof. I mean, you've seen MoveFit, Yeah. And so it's just like, it is a totally different, when I'm training, it's very level, I feel like. Yeah. Like, and just, I don't know, straightforward. So.
And you have to be, right?
Yeah.
Because you keep the clients in check, right? You're there for them to support them and be like, that was great, awesome. Next time we still have another thing and we're working. And your fitness should be day to day, right? And on your day to day, you have your highs, you have your lows, but you're not getting too high and you're not getting too low.
Right. And I think that's the biggest thing too, is like showing them like consistency, like, you know what I mean? And showing up in that way. But again, like, it's just interesting, but it's so, it's wild being a trainer, and I love it, but I want to hear from your perspective, because we actually worked out the other day, and which was great, and I love that. And your big thing is kettlebells and stuff like that. So was that something that, like, when you started training, like, you're like, I'm going for that, that's the modality I like? Okay.
No. I started training probably seriously at a high school. Like, I did some stuff in high school, but when you're 13, 14, 12, 13, 14, you don't know what you're really doing. I was following The Rock's protocol from, like... Yeah, The Rock was always, like, that was the guy I was looking up to. Yeah. So I was just following, like, a program that's his, like, fresh out of high school. And
that's so funny.
His was very, like, bodybuilder-esque, and I was in a bodybuilder gym, and that bodybuilding was always king, at least at that point, for what was going on in gym culture, especially in New York.
I was about to say, in New York, so you're like teenager, but you're like aspiring bodybuilding.
And the gym I was working out of was owned by this guy who ends up becoming a professional bodybuilder, and he was he ends up becoming one of my mentors, but he was the person that I would look up to, right? How do you learn how to work out? By your peers that are around you, kind of what's going on around you. The internet plays a role in it, but again, the internet is just, you're seeing bodybuilding for the most part.
Yeah, for sure. So with that, did you go to college in New York?
Yes.
Okay, where'd you, like, is that?
So college was an interesting thing for me. I ended up going to college in Jersey for computer science.
Okay.
Had a mental breakdown.
What?
Dropped out.
Okay.
Went back to school. I was thought, maybe I'll do computer science again.
Yeah.
Quit it. Went into marketing. Finished with a marketing degree.
Okay.
Did nothing with it, and found personal training, and that was just something that stuck, and I loved, and I'm glad I did, because I think I was kind of put here to do that.
Right.
So
I feel the same way. Yes. So when you say, like, have the mental breakdown, like, so is this the point, like, when in college there, are you, like, on your own, or were you living with family still, or, like, how was that?
I had my roommate was one of my close friends in high school.
Okay.
And I was always, like, very close to my family. Didn't really know how to take care of myself that well.
Okay.
And so it was like, you're by yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And I just didn't really know. I always felt like I didn't know how to fit in with people around me. I always relied on some other people to help me get into social circles. I wasn't not a popular person, but I wasn't like the most popular person. So I already felt like an outcast just in life in general, lost, confused, college stuff. And it all kind of, like, formed into paranoia of, what am I doing with my life?
Right. No, I see it. Well, because the reason I ask is because, like, in terms of college and stuff, I'm, like, Southern, right? So I'm from here. And so, SEC school, right? Yep. So, like, the traditional deal is get in sorority, and, like, that's how you get acclimated and whatever. Right. I didn't even find my footing until, sophomore year kind of, but really, like, junior year, when I got into a business fraternity. And it was just because I was around people that had, like, like-minded goals, even though we all were so different, we all were striving to be better. Right. And, like, I just didn't find that in the other organizations that I had started with. And so I always tell people, I'm like, I wish I would have known that was an option when I first got in.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I just didn't even, and there were so many other things I did, like, for charity and, like, different organizations that, like, I didn't get into, like I said, so sophomore, junior year. And really freshman year was my worst year. Like, I absolutely hated it. Like, I was just drinking, gained a bunch of weight. I wasn't dancing anymore. Yep. And I just felt like, what is my purpose? I'm here and learning this stuff, and I am not that great at math. I remember that, just being like, I'm awful, and still to this day. But it's just like, I just was like, man, I wish I would have had more of a guide, Yeah. So did you feel like there just weren't other things you could really join or do? You were just kind of going to school and sleeping and going to bed, like...
I found some, like, clubs, and I was, like, starting to develop these friendships with people.
Yeah.
But, like, my nature was very to myself. Huge video game nerd growing up. Like, that's what I did, hours upon hours. And if I wasn't doing that, I was either playing sports or in fitness or hanging out with friends.
Okay.
So, coming out of that shell and then showing it, I take a little bit I've gotten better at it now to open up to people of like who I am, my personality, and just showing that to people. So when you get put into college, like big frat party and there's just as many people as you could talk to as you want, but it's also just loud and intense.
Well, it's just
and
very shallow talks too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like no one's really talking about like the real stuff.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And that's always how I connected to people.
Yeah.
Right. So if you just open this door to now you're just having these shallow conversations with people who, you're trying to talk to everybody because it's just college. So I never really felt connected to the people. And also you're just a freshman and just lost and confused about what's going on. And now you got to make the biggest decision in your life. What are you doing?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So what was from high school to college, what was the deciding factor of computer science? Like, were you just like, I love...
Big computer nerd.
Okay. So you just love, okay. All right.
Like,
so you want to know everything about it.
Growing up, I kid you not, like 8 to 10 hours of like just video game time on the computer. I would go to school, come home, play video games until I went to basketball practice, and then came home, probably played more video games until I was too late, and I would go to bed at like 1, 2 a.m.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Wake up at 7 and go to school tired, and then rinse and repeat.
Man, I took one computer science class, and like all I see in my head right now is like zeros and ones, and I'm like, that was awful. Like, I mean, for me, because it's so crazy too, because both my parents literally met while working, like, my dad was working for Dell and my mom was doing computer stuff like she's done her whole career. And it was so funny because like they're both really good with that stuff.
Just didn't get passed along.
It did not get passed along. Like my clients were like, yep, because I have to have an assistant to make a freaking newsletter. Like I have to have an assistant to send out all the stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and again, it's been a learning experience for sure with all of that. But it's like, I just knew from the get-go, not really my vibe, not super good at that. But I want to ask, so was there always a presence? So you said there's always a presence of like health and fitness in your family? Like, or
my dad got me, he did a good job of taking me to the gym early on.
Okay.
So
are you an only child or do you have
siblings? I have an older sister.
Okay.
And my older sister was big in sports, very good high school athlete.
Yeah.
And my best friend, his whole family was like very involved with sports.
Okay.
So sports and fitness closely related, and if you have a good influence, you'll find your way into gym, and
for sure
you'll figure it out from there. High school also, they're getting you in the gym when you can. So at that point, it's just up to you of whether or not you decide to go more into it.
Okay. Because just wondering that, because when you say like, but people are visual, like if they're listening right now on Spotify and not seeing you, they may be like, okay, like was there, were you an overweight child with like video games and stuff like that? But I feel like if you had the presence of fitness still, was it, you were just pretty active, right?
So I was active, but I did have my fat kid era.
Okay. What was that like?
Well, it was a lot of video games and a lot of, I don't know if you know the brand Elio's Pizza.
No.
It's just like a oven pizza that is just like very long, rectangular, and I would just house those like it was nothing. Nutrition wasn't really like the highest.
Yeah.
I think it was mostly that time, that like early 2000s, where it's like fast food was king, and your mom's busy and she can't cook a dinner, so here's just frozen pizza, and you love it and it's delicious, but like, do you really need 3 giant slices of them that are definitely like, you're pushing like over 1,000 calories easy?
Oh, for sure. Literally, the other day, I don't know what I was eating, but I don't know what it was, but anyway, it resembled the taste of like a lasagna that I used to have all the time, a frozen lasagna, like Stouffer's that you would put in, and it was like still frozen when you would like put the fork in, and I would cook it for whatever. I'd follow instructions, still frozen. Should have taken that as a key, like, don't eat this. But I was like, whatever, it's fine. And so anyway, and I was a big like ramen noodle fan too. Only chicken flavor. If you had any other flavors, don't talk to me because you're super weird. Are you like? I feel like you're like Oriental or something weird.
Like, with me with food, I'll eat anything.
Okay.
At least once. I'd try it. I've eaten some weird things before, and it's been fun.
Yeah.
So
to say the least.
What was the video game of choice?
Big World of Warcraft.
I knew that it was something like that because like I play Call of Duty a lot, but it's hard to play 8 to 10 hours a day on a game like Call of Duty. But something like that is something you build. I mean, there's people who still have their same accounts their whole life.
You basically live your life on that game if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just have a completely like separate. You could disassociate yourself from reality.
Yeah.
And just live in this world instead.
Oh wow. So let me ask you this then, because I know you recently engaged, or have you been engaged for a bit?
I'm not engaged.
Oh, okay. Well, you live with your.
Yeah, me and my girlfriend been together for 5 years.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Love her to death.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. My bad. Sorry.
It's probably coming soon. So don't be like.
Yeah, I got you. Okay. I can't keep up, man. It's just whatever. But yeah, Emily.
We did move into a house together. So.
Yes. Okay, that's awesome. Yeah. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And so with that, I was gonna say, when you're, because I don't know, like if you guys are planning, like, are you wanting kids like someday?
We talk about it a lot, and yes.
Okay.
But it's also incredibly scary.
Yeah.
And just like financial burden of it. It's just like, damn.
Well, two things on that. The reason I'm asking is because I wanted to know your take on, like, would you let your child like play video games? Like, do you feel like it was something that, you know, can be more harmful now with what's out there, or do you feel like it can be constructive and can be something good for them?
I love that question. I would definitely let my kid play video games. It has been such a defining part of who I am.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm quirky, I'm nerdy. There's just like something about it that has just helped define me, but it also gave me community.
Yeah.
So my friends that are on there, I have friends around the United States that I met through video games, and people are like internet friends a little bit. They especially like 10 years ago, I would tell my mom that I'm talking to this guy from like, I don't know, somewhere in the South. I don't really know exactly. He doesn't live in our state. And then 5 years later, I end up going to meet them. And she was just like scared shit the whole time. Am I allowed to curse on this?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good.
Yeah.
She was just scared like nonstop. So it has helped me, one, develop who I am.
Yeah.
Because like, again, I was this almost like outcasty, didn't really fit in person. But if you go online, right, and there's just like, I could talk to anybody about anything and just be who I want to be.
Right.
And nobody's really judging you as much because we're all just a bunch of weirdos online. So.
Yeah. With the World of Warcraft.
World of
Warcraft. Okay. Yeah. With that, do you have like an alter ego? Like, are you somebody like, like, what's the name on there? Like, what? I want to know.
She's asking the tough ones.
Yeah,
she
really
is.
Give us your
wow
name.
Personal?
No. It's just, it's probably a funny, if I had to guess, probably a funny name.
Well, so growing up, it was just a name called Demi-Torn that I came up with like a long time ago. And it's developed over, you create a character and that just changes over time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did just want to mention too about the community thing. I think that's something that's never really like, that was a great question in the context of that conversation. The community part of it, I feel like is almost never really like considered as far as like how, because you look at like a guy playing, and most of the time it's guys, but you look at a guy like sitting around playing video games, it's like, oh, are you okay? Like you should probably do something. But to them, like he's talking about people that he didn't know.
Yeah.
But like my friends that I did know in real life now that don't live here. The only time I ever talk to them or hang out with them is when we're playing the game.
Same.
I don't even play the game to play the game most of the time.
That was something that didn't really cross my mind. I think that's good for the female listeners to know, because I know a lot of times there's that stigma that, you know, especially, and I've said it before too, of like, like I really don't want to be with a guy that plays video games. And I think that the reason was because when you look at video games, it was always presented to us in that fashion of like, honestly, like lazy, like loner. Yeah, just very like isolated. And then like, you know, and kind of, what's the word? Like, what's like, not reserved, but like distant, I guess. Because you know what I mean? Because I remember,
which is very much part of it.
Yeah, like, I feel like with
you can go too far,
right? And I think that like for me, the one experience I had talking to a guy that played video games, like I remember like going over there. I'm so excited. We're going on a date, you know, or whatever. And literally, he just sits there like with his headphones on, just playing, and I'm just sitting there. I'm like, oh, this is the date, and being like, oh, not for me.
That's not representative.
Yes, exactly. But I think that's where, and I think media and Hollywood has like kind of told us, you know?
Yeah.
So sometimes people can fear that. So I wouldn't have never thought of it in a way of like, actually, this is a community space that you're playing with like others, you know? So I think that's really cool.
And you're just connecting, trying to just sometimes you're getting away from reality for a little bit.
Yes.
Sometimes you're just connecting with people and just talking, shooting the shit.
And it could be that it's what the extreme part of it is that it's escape from reality, right?
Yep.
Like alcohol, drugs, all of that, right?
Instagram.
And
right.
Instagram, yes. So it's like, again, anything to an extreme, right?
Mm-hmm.
So does Emily play with you, or is this like
we have at times?
Okay.
There was, especially earlier on, and you start a fresher relationship. It's like, what do you do? I want to be a part of it. We still have times where we come, like, if we especially feel ourselves getting distant from each other, right? It's like let's come together and let's play a game together, because one, it puts you into this feel good, like we're both here to just have a good time, and it's a casual feeling.
Yes.
But I say that the game has to be right. Right?
for sure?
If I say, go play a video game with your girlfriend, and they'll be like, oh, babe, let's go play Call of Duty and shoot this guy. And it's
Right.
They don't want to. Some do,
Yeah.
right? But not everybody. That's not everyone's genre.
Yeah.
It's like watching a film. Not everyone's going to love the same genre as you.
For sure. No, I actually, I love board games, right? Card games are fun, whatever.
What's your board game?
So what do you think my board game is? If
I love board games too, actually.
Yeah.
I really do. Yeah.
So like, if you had to guess my all-time favorite one from knowing the little bit about me.
Is it a classic?
Yeah.
Is it Monopoly?
Yeah, I was gonna go with
Yeah,
Monopoly
it's
too. I
Monopoly.
swear I was gonna go with Monopoly too. Yes,
Yeah.
it has to
But
be. It has
think
to
about
be.
like, why would you pick that one? Like what was
Just you have a business mind.
Yeah.
Right.
So it is that whole thing of from a young age. Like, I mean, it's so funny because my mom watches this podcast, so she's gonna be like, yeah, because
Mom.
yeah, exactly, because she knows that like my dad stopped playing with me because I would always change the
That's
rules.
what I was about to ask. I bet. I was like, are you one of those that people like are like,
Yeah.
Danny? Because you said your mom's gonna laugh, and I'm thinking she's like, yeah, she definitely loves Monopoly.
But here's the thing, though. Now that I know the set rules or whatever, would love to smash a game. Like if somebody literally was like, "Hey, can we like get some people together and like play Monopoly all night?" I'd be like, "Let's do that." Like but for me, it was just cool, the whole owning stuff, and like getting the properties and whatever, and just like it was such a even at a young age, like just structured game, and I love that. And something else randomly. Do y'all remember like Mancala? Do you remember that? Like
Which ones?
it's like where it's like this, and it's like the gems, like
Yes,
the
yes.
right. I love that.
That game's
too.
fun.
That is fun.
There's a sneaky strategy to it.
Yes, 100%. I used to play it at my Christian school, and it was like just the vibe. But anyway, so I was gonna ask you too, but when it comes to like, with now living together and everything like that in your relationship, so what does Emily do?
She's in medical sales. So,
Okay.
but selling like she's gonna be like listening closely to make sure I say it right. She does molecular testing for a lab that's based around wound and UTI.
Okay.
Medical stuff.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah,
I'll
outside
never
of my
remember
realm.
that, but yeah, got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what did she think? And because for example, because you moved here, you said when you were how old? 20?
So 2 years ago, so I was 27. So that was 2023.
Okay. So wait, so you moved here, 23, you said?
In 23.
Oh, in
Yeah.
23. Okay.
In 23.
So 27. And so wait, so you two moved together. Y'all
Yes.
met in New York.
We moved for her job.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. So y'all met, how did you meet? Like
Tinder.
I can't with you. I cannot. This is every dude that comes on here is like Tinder. Okay, so
It works. Listen, it works.
This is not a sponsored ad.
Yeah, no, but it gets a bad rap. But a lot of people say that. I mean, me and my wife met online. Ironic. I mean, we went to the same school, but like technically,
Yeah.
Wild. Yeah, Facebook dating's not giving me the best hope right now.
It's a different. It's like it. From what I hear now, it's more of like the Wild West. So
Yeah. Oh yeah.
you're just shooting guns blazing, hoping for the best.
Literally, like blindfold and upside down.
Yeah. Yeah.
If that can give you guys the best description. So when it comes to, so you moved here, so 2 years ago because of her job.
Yes.
So then, but you were already doing personal training in New York. Mm-hmm. Okay. So were you working with the same clientele that you are now here?
Nope. I
Okay.
came here and I had zero clientele.
Okay.
And that was probably one of the hardest things I ever had to do.
Yeah.
But the situation that I was in New York was not fulfilling
Okay.
Let me take that back. It was very fulfilling because I was a personal trainer.
Yeah.
And I worked with, my clientele was about 50% special needs, 50% just Gen Pop. And being able to be a part of the special needs community and just help people in general was amazing. And I would never redo anything there. But, and this is a big kind of like almost warning to anybody who gets into personal training to start, is that if you're going to make it starting out, you're probably going to not be paid the highest amount to start. And you're probably going to have to push like 10, 12, 14-hour days at times.
100%.
And that was the part that I was at. And I felt stuck where I was. And I'm the type of person who asks the universe for stuff.
Yeah, same.
And I always wanted to travel, and I always wanted to see different parts of the world. And I said, I don't love what I'm doing, and I want to be somewhere outside of where I'm at.
Okay.
And opportunity presented itself.
Yeah.
And if you don't take it, you're not going to get more opportunities usually from the universe, or as much as you would like.
For sure. No, I love that. And I'm completely the same believer in that, and manifesting and for me, like praying and everything like that. And you know, God doesn't always give you what you want, but again, there's different paths and it leads you to those things and even something better than what you thought. You know, there's been so many times where I thought I wanted something so bad, didn't get it, and realized like, I'm so glad I didn't get it.
Right.
You know, so there's those times too. But I think that's really cool. So she basically was like, hey, got this job offer, you down to come, like come with and everything. And then you're like, hey everyone, thank you so much for listening and subscribing to the LYB podcast. If you ever have any questions about wanting to train with Danny D Fitness or getting your movement in, please feel free to reach out to Danny at DannyDfitness.com, as well as you can follow me on all social media platforms, Danny D Fitness 1.
Hey guys, this is Anthony Vigilante. If you like my story and interested more about my fitness journey, you can find me at a.vigilante fitness. I'm also teaching coaches at All Strength Nashville. I run a functional strength class. I'd love to see you all around. I'm teaching kettlebells and just helping people move better and feel good and get strong. So hope to see you all around. Follow you on Instagram, whatever it is.
I guess it was not hard for you to leave because you were like, I'm ready to leave New York at that point.
It was extremely difficult.
Okay.
Because I'm so close to my family and my friends that are there.
Yeah.
People ask me all the time, do you love Tennessee? And I said, yeah. They're like, well, is there anything that you would change about it? Right. Or what don't you like? And I'd be like, I just wish that the people that I had there
were here.
Right.
So how was that? Like when you moved here, did you feel like, because I know so many people that listen to this that have lived here for a few years now and they still haven't found their community, or you know what I mean, where they feel kind of stuck in that. So when you got here, I want to know your perspective on, you know, because I've come up with the fitness community, right? So what was your perspective, one, of the fitness community, but also in terms of, you know, going from personal training, special needs, and, you know, kind of Gen Pop, what was the translation like here? Did you kind of look for that too, or were you like, no, I'm going to a whole different demographic?
So the initial question, general thought of fitness here.
Yeah.
I was surprised by how little amount of public gyms there are.
Yeah.
It's in New York, it's just like, all right, there's a Crunch, there's a Retro, there's there's a that. And there's like a few personal training gyms.
Yeah.
But here it's like full on switched over, where you could find a million different studios or little boutiques.
Boutiques.
Yeah. And but fitness in general right now is a little bit of a glam show, at least in the front for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I see that boutique is just growing in general. But when I go back home, there's almost no boutiques.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, very big missed opportunity for business.
Right.
And I'm like, do I bring something here?
Yeah, for sure. So is that kind of y'all's goal, is to go back up to New York?
Probably not.
Oh, okay.
It's just to afford any sort of property in and around that area is just like.
I see, yeah.
Yeah, I would love to if it makes sense and it works out. Sure. Probably would have to move somewhere in Jersey. That's always like I'll give you a little the Staten Island dream is to go from Staten Island to maybe a nice house in Jersey where we're still close to our family and we can live together. But it's
but you can still commute back and yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, and then the perspective of me coming in, just flipping up what I was doing. I always knew I was a very, very, very good trainer. I see fitness and I love to learn things about the body and how to help people move. So I knew that I could just try and not fall into Gen Pop, but find my way and I'll be all right. I found a gym and I worked under a guy for a little bit and I was working there. I didn't love what it was. And I was like, I'm going to go out on my own. I'm going to do my own thing. And that's where I found where I'm at now, which is all strength. And,
in Franklin,
in Cool Springs, and still working for myself, but in a great community. And that was really the thing that I was looking for the most.
Right.
So for anyone who's kind of like moved here and they feel a bit lost, which is totally normal.
Yes.
Try and find a community to be a part of. And that is probably going to help lead you into the right things and do uncomfortable things.
Yeah.
And making friends as an adult is incredibly difficult.
Yes, 100%.
And my girlfriend says this all the time, is making friends as an adult is just seeing the same person eat like consistently enough. And then it kind of is just like people put their guard down and then they start being a person to you.
Yes.
And that's what you just have to try and do. Get in front of people and just try and be yourself.
Yeah. I mean, this is like our probably fourth time seeing each other. So so we're about there.
Yeah. Somewhere.
We're basically there.
Yeah.
No, I think that's so true though. It is the repetition of just seeing that because there's so many people that I see literally, I mean, every year at the same events, right? Mm-hmm. Couldn't tell you their last name. You know, right? Like it's just one of those things of like, it is so hard to actually have real connections because every time, especially, I'd say a few years ago in the fitness community, like we all were just, fighting out there, you know what I'm saying? In terms of like, not like with each other, but just to get it to the masses, you know what I mean? To get our brands out there, to get everything growing, to be seen, right? And it was so, it was just very hard to actually be like, to do all of that. And then actually have real relationships too. You know what I mean? Like you'd have like your core kind of people. And then from there, like that was like who you rocked with, you know? And then finally it wasn't until, I would say I was probably in the fitness community for at least like 4 years before I had like real conversations maybe,
Was that you or was that the people you were around?
Those people I was around. Because, it took me, you got to understand, like, when I started my business, like, I went because I put on fitness festivals. And so, literally, I was crazy. I started my business 2017 in July, and then, like, September, I had a fitness festival for, like, the community. And every single gym and person that I reached out to wanted to be a part of it, which was awesome and super cool. But it wasn't like they knew me. Like, it wasn't, it was just this name and this brand. And they were like, cool, we love this mission. Let's do it. And so from there, it was, one of those things like, it was like kind of like known for that and then known for being at events. And so, but I would go to all these different classes to basically, show up and like silent audition people. So like I would show up like to All Strength or something, right? Like, and I would be watching you do kettlebells or do a class. And if I was like, he's a good instructor, then I would then ask you and be like, hey, would love for you guys to sponsor. Love how you teach. You seem approachable. You seem great, whatever. Could you be at this event on this time? So I did that like on my own. Nobody knew and they didn't really know me then. So it was one of those things, but how I also chose instructors was basically because of like how they treated me, right? Because a lot of times, like I went to a Barry's boot camp and they handed me 10-pound weights, and I was like, "Cool." So we got heavier. They're like, start here, and I was like, "Okay," but like I know I can do heavier, and you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or it would be like, I don't know, different CrossFit gyms and just different things. So and there's some people that wouldn't even acknowledge me. And I was like, cool, so we're not going to have them as a sponsor, right? Because I didn't want them, like people, I didn't just take everybody. You know what I mean? I wanted
people who are actually personable and know how to meet a client as well.
Correct. And I also wanted people, because I didn't judge by big brand names or local small businesses. Like I just was kind of like, I want like people who genuinely care about fitness and movement to be there and be a part. And if you were teaching a class, then you didn't have to pay to be a sponsor. You see what I'm saying? So it was like a win-win for everybody. So I chose those really carefully. I mean, we had started out with like a 5K and then went into a yoga and then went into, a boot camp, then went to shadowboxing. Like it was awesome. It was such a fun day. Anyway, did that 2017 Franklin, then 2018 Franklin, Murfreesboro, and 2019 Franklin, Nashville, and then COVID happened.
Right.
But anyway, all that time, making the connections with Ryan, who owned Nashville Fit at the time, we became friends, and kind of grew in that. And so about, I would say around like COVID and stuff, like that was kind of the time that I got time to take where I went all virtual. And so I had a few moments to actually look at the people that I had connections with in my community and network and be like, wow, who really has been showing up these past few years? Who just kind of used me? Who kind of, you know what I mean? And things became very clear during that time a lot because also I was injured, going through some stuff. Like it was just a hard time.
Right.
And I was like, who are the people that are like there even when we all feel like we're sinking, if that makes sense?
Yeah.
Who's
got your back when things hit the fan?
Correct. Yes. And so that was really cool. And always the people who have been sponsoring me from the beginning, like Barbell Voodoo, Grab the Gold, Nashville Fit, all the different ones, like that was also a telling factor too. Cause I'm like, hey, I'm going to do this crazy, event on this rooftop. You want to come, and they're like, yeah, we'll donate product, whatever. And like, that was awesome. So I built those partnerships through there. But it still wasn't really like a friendship level. So I'm trying to do better about not mixing things, but being like, hey, do you want to get a workout in?
Right.
Let's talk shop, but also like, let's get to know each other.
It's networking either way, right?
Yeah.
And you can get personal with it because people like to be personal with people, right? If we're just business friends, right? And that's all we talk about and there's nothing else.
They're acquaintances is what I call them.
Right.
Like, so I kind of differentiate everybody by like, are we acquaintance? Are we friends? Whatever.
Right.
But also I feel like after 2020 happened, I think in my perspective, it was like people became more like, I don't know if it was just like trauma and stuff, but more open to share things.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like if people were maybe more closed off before, people started becoming more open and more vulnerable. And that could have been just that I became that way. You know what I mean?
Maybe you were just asking better questions or something.
Yeah.
Just prying.
It could have been. I don't know. But it just like, and genuinely just trying to get to like know people instead of being like, I'm just like here.
Right.
Like, I don't know if that makes sense at all. But
no, it does. Because, and especially if like you see a person and you don't know what their story is, why they're here, how they ended up here, right?
Yeah.
Until you start asking a specific question. And the amount of times that I've just had someone, it's like, well, we're just sitting here. I mean, we can either both twiddle our thumbs or we can actually have a stimulating conversation and we would both feel better about it.
Right.
Usually it ends up feeling like I end up learning something about someone that I never would have thought.
Yeah.
And then we formed this connection.
Yeah.
Right. And not that everything needs to lead to something at the end,
No,
but 6 months down the line, you, I don't know, post a story and they comment something and then it's like, oh, now let's do business or something like that or whatever.
Yeah, planting seeds for sure.
Yeah.
So I love that. And I just always love to hear like kind of an outsider to like into the fitness community and stuff like that and now coming in and being a part of it. And so so like now that you train out of All Strength, then but you also work with Nashville Fit Magazine. Mm-hmm. So you're the events, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm the events lead.
Okay. How are you feeling about all that?
I love it. It's like meeting a million different people and hearing a bunch of different stories. And
well, and also I do want to preface on this and say that like when I had time to go to all those classes and stuff, you got to understand where I was at, right? Just started the business. So client roster was not full. Mm-hmm. Like I had people that I had been training for years that came with me and whatever, but it wasn't stacked like my regular days.
Right.
And I also lived in Murfreesboro. So for me, if I'm driving to be in Franklin, because that's where I trained at the time, then I'm not going to, like if I have 4-hour break in between, instead of sitting around, I'll go take a class.
Right.
So for anyone,
you were hustling.
Yes. And for anyone listening, like that's where like, if you feel like right now you're like, oh, well, how can I make time to go do these things? It's like, there are seasons to this. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's going to be a season where you kind of plateau also. And during that season, it's like, okay, how can you rise up? What are some things that were good that worked out before, or, kind of like reflecting. So I kind of like look back and cycle things and be like, okay, remember when you did it this way or whatever, maybe let's try that again. Or that definitely didn't work. So let's move forward with this
Which is why you are where you're at, right?
Yeah.
Being able to reflect back. All right, that was a failure, but that doesn't mean it was necessarily bad.
Yes.
What can I do to now make that better? Or, I'm just going to scrap that completely, but you still learn something from it.
For sure.
Right?
Oh yeah, and I feel like too, so many people look at those as like yeah, like you said, failures or whatever, or like that they couldn't, that they didn't like learn from them, I guess, and so it was just super negative. But I'm like, I feel like everything I've done, I've learned from, or like, you know what I mean? Like I don't know if it's just being more perceptive or, innovative and stuff. But I just am like, I always try to find something from the solution. There's not really any ones that I have that I'm just like, what was that? You know what I mean?
And when they do happen, you're like, okay, I knew I just wasted my time.
Yes. Yeah. But I mean, even with the dating stuff, like I'm like, I'm not going to waste my time. We're going to be efficient.
Yeah.
Like I went on a walk date and like, cause I was like, if we sit and have coffee, or I don't drink coffee, but if we sit at this coffee shop for 2 hours and I feel like my life was just wasted, I'm going to be really mad. Right? But if we go on a walk, at least I got my steps in.
That's so funny.
What?
At least got my steps.
Yeah.
Conversation was all right. The guy was
I mean, hey.
but I hit 12,000. You want to drop and do some 12 push-ups now too? Come on.
Hey, I'd already done the 12 push-ups, okay? but seriously, like it helped me get my movement in. And like, but that's just like the efficiency in me. And so that's where like with scheduling and stuff, like I really try, like, I mean, since I was young, I've been making schedules. Mm-hmm. Like that was like my go-to, right? I'm literally like summertime and I'm like 7 to 7:45, eat breakfast, 7:45 to 8. You know what I mean? Go walk outside. Like, and so I love it. But that's where I've had to like, and I don't know with you, with having your own business and stuff, like, if you feel this too, but like, do you find it hard to retract from that because there's so much to do? Or are you like, do you find that you're pretty balanced with your like resting and?
I'm a little bit of a chaotic spirit. So at times I'm like scheduled. As a trainer, you need to have some sort of schedule. Right. And you mentioned seasons before. I have my seasons where I'll time block almost everything and be like, all right, this I know I need to sit down and read and study, especially when I was early on in my career and it was like, all right, I need to get this cert, but I also work 12, 14 hours. Right. So I'm going to put on my schedule that this is when I'm studying. Yeah. Because otherwise I just won't do it. I'll come home and I'll do something else.
Yes, exactly.
So it definitely goes with the seasons and what I'm focusing on. But to say that I do definitely find that now that I have more on my plate, that it's harder to be like, all right, let me specifically spend this time to do this, this, and this. Yeah. Mostly because when you have more on your plate, your brain has a tendency to get more jumbled. Yeah. And you're like, all right, well, I need to do this. And I need to do this, and then don't forget about that. Right. But so I guess that's where I'm just like, I need to do better at making lists and actually sticking to the list.
Yep. No, I love a good list. But it can be very overwhelming.
Men, listen, Danny loves a list. Make sure you give her a list. If you're taking her out on a date, have a list of everything we're doing from top to bottom.
See, that's the difference. Though,
don't
Anthony.
play video games.
No, that's the difference. Okay, so hold on.
You want someone who's the opposite.
Yeah. Wait. So opposite of me.
Yes.
Yes. Like, but in terms of, so when it comes to like not business stuff and like friends stuff, like in like dating or whatever, I love a chill dude. Like sometimes I think people always get confused because they'll be like, you want a trainer or you want someone that's like in the gym. I really don't. Like, that's not kind of my vibe. I want someone that has a healthy lifestyle. Right. So if they're passionate about something that is related to fitness, love that for you, right? But not necessarily like a trainer in the same hustling and the same like that I have. I'd rather them be passionate as an entrepreneur about like their own thing because like I feel like this is my thing. You know what I mean? But also too, I just love like literally when we're done with the podcast, like, cause I have another one as well. But when we're done, like your girl's sitting down. Like I know we're sitting down on this couch, but I mean like laying down. Okay. Yeah. Like I got a couple errands to do, but like I just like Danielle loves movies and loves chilling and loves like a bonfire and loves music, festivals. Like that is your
soul.
Yeah, that's my soul. Yes. And and having conversations and like just like I don't know, just really being like I don't know. I told my friend the other day. So he He's not a romantic interest at all. But he was like, he got this like big truck, okay? And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like, whatever. And I said, if you were like my guy, to me, what would be awesome is him just showing up. I'm like, hey, we're gonna go for a ride. I don't care where we go. I don't need the itinerary. You just drive me there. Let's roll up. I think that is the most fun, attractive thing for somebody to do.
Spontaneous.
Yeah. And like, because my whole life is very scheduled. There's not a lot of spontaneity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool when I have like, in terms of someone reaches out with a influencer opportunity or, a brand deal or something like that, right? That's super cool.
Right.
But my regular day to day with clients, it's not like that.
It's very structured.
Yeah. And that's why I like to have kind of the both. And like, because you're like, oh my gosh, on one moment you could get that. I always talk about with Connect, getting the influencership. That was like a $28,000 email that came through. So you never know when you're going to get those emails.
Right.
So that's exciting. And that's kind of like the brand. But the actual like work though, I mean, I'm excited when some of my clients move times and I have like different, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like I kind of, it's like,
I have a 3-hour break now. Wasn't expecting that.
Oh no, not like that. Like I mean that like it doesn't get so repetitive of like, oh, I see the same person every single time at that same time. Okay. So it's kind of like, oh, okay. Like because like on the snow day, like people had to move times around. So I was like, oh, I don't know who's coming in. I'm not gonna even look at the schedule. Like I'll be like, awesome. Like show up, So I like that.
It's funny when you see, and maybe you could speak if this is true, but you see a client usually at like 8, and then like something happens in your schedule, you see them at 4 or something, and it's like you're a completely different person, and your strength levels are like completely different.
Oh no, 100%. And we've talked about that too of my clients of like now that some of them used to train for years at night, got a new job, now I train first thing in the morning, and and how they feel and how different, So it's like, so I always just again programming for them obviously like for what they need for when it is, but it is totally different. And people don't realize that when you're working out fasted, when you're working out with 4 meals in you, and that's why I try to tell them about the whole perfection thing. It's just, I'm just so over it. I'm so over the whole, why am I not progressing or like, why am I not whatever with strength type of stuff. And I'm like, what phase of your cycle are you in? And most of them can't tell me. And I mean, I'm right there in that boat. You know what I'm saying? Because mine had gotten all messed up and stuff. But like, what is that like? What's your stress level like? Like, it shouldn't be that every week you're going to hit the same amount, Right. And like, again, if you're in a bodybuilding prep and you like are crazy like I was like, regardless of what's happening, 225 for 12, right. 225 deadlift for 12
not everybody
every time.
needs to be like that.
Exactly. So it's like, that's not realistic and what we're doing is building realistic, healthy lifestyle regimens.
Right.
Right.
Which that just, if you're there to move and be and try to enjoy it the best you can, that's where you're really going to get any sort, like the biggest gain of that is the ability to enjoy your movement.
Yes.
For most people, right? The number that goes up on the bar is whatever. It's going to go up. Some days it'll go down. Yeah. But at the end of the day, try to just enjoy and make fitness and movement like a high point of your day.
Yeah. So you said that you really loved or like you wanted to travel more and stuff like that. So are you like one of those is like, okay, I want to go do like all 50 states. I want to go all to Europe. Like what is that?
I would love to hit most of the national parks.
Okay. Yeah.
But that'll take that's like a long-term goal.
Right.
But like, I've been to some places out in Europe, and it's just like seeing a different culture and something that's just different is just always fascinated me. Yeah. And it's like how they just live and how they operate. Yeah. It just feels different. And I'm a guy who loves change. Yeah. Right.
Okay. Wow.
I my hair is different every season. I try I end up changing my hair, change my facial hair, whatever it is. So like just change and seeing different things, it always just tickles something. I don't know. I don't know. Love different foods, love meeting different people. It's just, there's something, the variety is the spice of life. So the more things you see, the more you understand about life, the more you understand about different cultures, the more you understand about different people. Yeah. And that's just kind of something that I've always had a thirst for.
Yeah, no, I love that. So when, in terms of, with like moving down here and then with the training and stuff like that, like what has been like has it been the hardest struggle to just like the friendships, or have there been like other things that have been really like, I guess, difficult?
Keeping friendships was difficult, but that I call in people as much as I possibly can.
Yeah.
I have a list of friends that I just go down and it's be like, all right, I call one. All right, they didn't answer me. Okay, you're dead to me. All right, call on the next one.
Yeah, exactly.
Call on the next one on the line. All right, then I'll call my mom because I know my mom will always answer no matter what.
Right, yep.
But within the first year or two coming down, me and Em had like it was difficult because we're both just separated from our environments. And it was actually the first time that we were living together.
Okay.
Like she stayed long time with me during COVID.
Yeah.
But like when you're together, you just removed all your support systems.
Yeah.
Then now it's like, hey, it's me and you, and we are in the struggle bus.
Right.
And that was honestly the hardest thing because we just had to learn to rely on each other more and be there for each other. And it brought our relationship down to some like pretty like dark and like deep places. We've been able to bounce back, and it's made our relationship so much greater now.
Yeah.
And I love her to death.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the hardest things to do, is because you have this person that you love and you know that you love them.
Yeah.
But you're struggling, they're struggling, and you only have each other.
Right.
And then you're going to work and you're here. You're going to work, all right, you see them there and you're both just like, no matter how much you love each other, you're just butting heads.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of relationships get to and kind of just break.
Yeah.
Right? So the difficult thing was being to make sure that we didn't break, because we knew that we love each other.
Yeah.
Right? And that sometimes it's not always what holds people together, but we're able to make it through, and we're happier now more than ever.
Which is awesome. So tell me, like, what, I guess, do you think the key factor was just communication, or was it like...
Oh yeah, we communicate we'll have a fight, right? And then we'll talk. One of us will eventually end up talking first.
Yeah.
And be like, here's where I was coming from. I'm sorry I did blah, 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 blah. Here's how I saw. And this is what, and we always use I statements. I felt that, this.
Which is great.
You let it kind of breathe for a little bit. Well, I felt this.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We didn't really see what you were seeing. And then you kind of end up bringing it together and be like, okay, what can we do to make sure that doesn't happen again? Or if it does, what do we do, and how do we kind of grow and adjust from that?
Right.
So
I love that.
Our relationship has always been based around growth, right? I'm a very growth-oriented person.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you tell me I'm doing something wrong, I want to know what it was, how did it make you feel, and how can I do better to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Look at that, man. I knew I liked him. It's just like, but because that's so great. Because and females should do that. Obviously, both parties should do that, because it's like, again, in no world should you be like, I'm so good, like you're the problem. You know what I mean? Or like, I think that so many times now, how you're talking about like with video games and stuff, like living in your own reality, I believe you can create your own reality.
Oh yeah.
And so, but I think that some people have created so far to where they are not even self-aware,
Yep.
And I do love that about when in a relationship, like having like a proper, and I guess I can't really say I've ever had a good one, so I don't know. I'm just like thinking this how it would be, but like that they could kind of hold you accountable.
Yeah.
Right. Not be jealous, not be envious, not be like whatever, but truly hold you accountable and kind of lift you up, but also like learn from them too, And it's just like, I think that's like what would be a beautiful
having someone
relationship.
who's self-aware.
Yeah.
Right. Self-aware and humbled enough to know that they are not, on this higher pedestal, right? That they're willing to learn and see what you have and what's going on with you, and try and help you get through it is always going to be, that's probably my biggest dating advice, is find someone who's self-aware and who's willing to grow and learn and try and work to be a part of your life as well as help bring you up in your life, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Anthony, I can tell because like so you got an older sister, and then where you train at now, are you one of the only males that is in that gym?
There's a couple other that work there sparingly, but I'm
like them full time there.
That's where I train out of mostly for all my clientele. So yeah.
And mainly clientele is female, male. Okay, female. Yeah. Yeah, I think that you just have that good energy, you know what I mean, in terms of with females to understand.
I grew up in a family of just all women. Yeah. I have I forget how many, I have so many cousins, but my cousins were mostly all female. I had one male cousin who was older than me that I saw regularly. Okay. There was like a group of, let's say we're about 10 of us, and I was the one other guy to my other male cousin who was 9 years older than me. Okay. Gotcha. So like the oldest, and I was the second youngest. Yeah. And then it was all females, all girls in between. Yeah. And so it was like, who am I hanging out with for the most part? Yeah. Yeah. So you learned, which I love. So you learned, yeah. And like it's funny because I was at some event. It was one of my client Danny Williamson, shouting her out.
Yeah, I know her. Yeah.
She had a mostly female. Her what she does is mostly female oriented. Yeah. So I went to go hear her speak and listen to what she was saying, and I was the only male in the room. Yep. And they were talking about periods or whatever, and they were like, "Anthony, we're so sorry," and I'm like, why? Right. Am I supposed to be like off-put that we're talking about just your biology, like what's goes on with your body? Like I want to learn more because then it helps me understand. Yes. I don't know. I like to know things, and it's just like, as why would I not want to?
Should like we should like be able to share that. Like I hate when people are like, oh, like. They say like, oh, like don't talk about it around them or whatever, even though like men present. And I'm like, absolutely not. Like they should want to know. Like we should want to know more about each other and like the things that you go through and you know what I mean? And the struggles like, body wise and stuff like that.
I was just gonna say, I think that you're dead on in calling that out about the way that he was raised, though, because I also like on this show that we talk about that quite a bit, and I wonder sometimes if that's ever a thought. Like, should I? And obviously it's totally fun, but I grew up with sisters and that kind of thing. So it's not like this is the first time that I've heard the topic or anything around it. So
for sure, Logan's heard all the things. If you haven't yet checked out How to Love Your Body Throughout on Amazon, please go do so. It is my passion project. It is something that is so special, and it's a tool and guide to help you love yourself more throughout your journey. Whether you're in a bodybuilding prep, whether you're a mom of 4, or you're someone that's just looking to love the body that they're in right now, I highly encourage you to check out the book on Amazon, as well as you can reach out to me with any questions. And if you're able to share this with a friend or loved one, please do, and help supporting the mission to help everybody love their body throughout their journey. Yeah, but I knew I liked you because literally when I first, because you said from New York, and I love New York people. Like, I don't know why, they're just my vibe. And like, I think it's honestly
you have New York energy, even though you're not from New York.
Right? When I'm in New York, people are like, people that are friends of mine, stuff, they're like, oh, it's so overwhelming, and there's just a lot going on. I'm like, literally, run it up. Yeah. I remember taking a class at like one of the private gyms there. It was like up on like the 5th story or whatever. It's like Kenny Santucci's gym, like Strong AF or whatever. Anyway, and I went up there, took a class, and I literally felt so confident. And I was like, going to Times Square doing a Love Your Body initiative. Let's roll out by myself. Sweet. Brought my tripod, set it up and like really right there in Times Square. Hey, asking questions. Like literally, it was awesome. And I just walked back. And like by myself, and it was just awesome. I literally feel like anything is possible there. So that's where like, I don't know. And I mean, again, don't know how it would be to live there, whatever. Yeah. Obviously, never stayed longer than a few days. But it is one of those things where I just, thrived in it. And so anyway, but people that I know that are from the area and people have sat on that couch and talked to me about the stuff that they're from, New England area and whatever, we just always vibe so well. So I love that. But I want to ask you, the first time that you saw like my brand and saw like Dandy Fitness, kind of like, what was your, I guess, perception, or what was your kind of take?
I'm trying to think back to when I actually first met you.
Okay.
I think it might have been at the Music City Fit Expo.
Okay.
The first time.
Okay.
First, I didn't really know what I was. No, here's where it was. It was the first time
I know what it was. I'm waiting for you to remember.
The first time was at the Key Lime Pie Festival.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Yep.
So at first I didn't really know much, and it was just kind of I went up to go try your pre-workout. I was like, oh yeah, I'll try a pre-workout.
Yeah.
And then you had this very warm and inviting energy, right? So that was just like, this seems like a very cool chick to kind of like talk to, hang out with, and we just ended up talking and vibing for a bit. But you always felt like a approachable person.
Yeah.
And then the next time I saw you at some run, and then we saw like Music Fit, and we always just had like nice conversation. And we were able, and I always felt like I was able to speak and talk to you comfortably. So that was definitely one of the two big things that I noticed. But then as I got to know you more, it was definitely like, okay, she knows fitness. That's like, you're damn good at that, and you have this mind for building your brand and your business and your identity that not a lot of people have this drive to do, which makes you very unique and just fun to be around, because then it pushes someone like me. I always look at my peers and be like, what are they doing, and how can I take what they're doing and do it to achieve the stuff that I want to achieve?
Correct. Yes.
Right? So seeing you develop your brand and push your personality and your identity was always something to be like, damn, Danny is like killing it. And then when we had that work, and I was like, I could listen to you talk about business forever, just because you have this just knowledge about you, about what you're doing and how you're doing it, that I just find fun to listen to.
Oh, well, thank you for that. I really appreciate it, because I really do love to share, and I think that it's important. And so often, I think this was kind of going back to the whole having friends in the industry and stuff like that, was for so long, because everyone was trying to like make it, quote unquote, that everyone was like lip sealed. Like you couldn't find out how anybody was doing anything. Right. And I get it. I understand it, because there's certain things should be personal and like whatever. Right. But I was also like, hey, I want to know you're doing incredible things. Like, how are you doing this? Like, I'm not going to come steal your idea. It's just, I feel like there's power in like conversation, and literally, it's until recently where I've met people like Gunnar and them, who are just trying to be like, hey, let's make this everything better. Yeah. Like, we need more great trainers. We need more great brands. We need more people to see on Instagram some positivity or some realness. You know what I mean? And so it's been more recent with that, which has been great. But yeah, the whole strong arming and like the not sharing things, it was always just kind of like, cool, I'll go back into my corner then. You know what I mean? When I wanted to share everything, like I was like, let's like collaborate, let's figure it out, let's like build your brand up. I mean, I literally put on a festival to get people to sign up with other fitness brands.
Yeah.
I didn't get one client, by the way, from those festivals, you guys. Okay. And and I know the people who went on to do those classes for years.
Yep.
Because they had access to it. That's all I wanted. Obviously, I would have loved it to have been sponsored more and actually made money off of it, right? So that like the state or whoever could have been like, hey, this is a fitness initiative for Nashville. Here's some money. Put it on. So that way we're not stressed. We make it the most live event. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was like more kind of my vision with it, of like, I'm like, this is what, because like, frankly, I had never had a fitness festival before. They wouldn't allow me to have it. I had to go to two women who managed this private property that had built this new amphitheater to allow me to have it there, because the city wouldn't let me have it.
Right.
So, because like, well, we never heard of something like this before. And I'm like, I know, because I want to do it.
Because I'm creating it.
But yeah, exactly though. You know what I mean? So that was something that I was like, wow, like let's try to like make this actually a thing.
Which, circling back to kind of like fitness community and people kind of stiff arming.
Yeah.
It's very much like it, and it's going away from this more so, but a lot of people who get into this business are ego driven.
Yeah.
Right. They do it for me and what I do. And look at all these people that are under me, and look how I help that person.
Yeah,
look how I help
clients.
that person. And look who I am.
Yeah.
Which I'm happy to see that's kind of fading away more.
Yeah.
But I have to say that we're in this to help people.
Yeah.
Right. And the more that we get people in general fit and healthy and more understanding of themselves and their body and more confident in their bodies, that will then in turn raise the personal trainer value higher up. Because if we just have bad personal trainers who are doing it for themselves, then there's that stigma of, oh, you don't know what personal trainer you're going to get. Be careful who you're dealing with, blah, 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 blah. We just don't need sketchy people kind of like
so could we like blacklist them and like start like getting them out? Like you're like, how like when doctors, I mean, there's repercussions for their things. So like then they can't be a doctor anymore.
Yeah.
So if you're sleeping around with your clients, you can't be a trainer anymore.
We need a community board or like whatever it is that kind of just like,
I'll be on the board.
Yeah.
I know too much. It's fine.
Yeah.
But like, you know what I mean though? So like there should be no reason for that kind of stuff and the misuse of power, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In those roles. But the other part that I was going to say is, it is just, man, I'm thinking about the board now. I'm like, who would be on it? Like, who could we get on there to make it happen? But it's also, especially coming from as a female, and I mean, I'm sure you've dealt with it too in terms of like pricing, right? Like they're like, oh, well, these females only charge $30 an hour, and I'm like, cool. They just started, or they're only doing it because they look a certain way.
Right.
This is a brand. I've been doing this for 12 years. I mean, I've been certified, all these different things. So it's again one of those things of like, we are not the same. Just like all protein shakes are not the same, right? Like not all like, so it's so frustrating when already females are like a minority, I feel like, in this space.
Right.
And then to be like, oh, well, she trained. I'm like, yeah, no offense to her, but that we're not comparable. You know what I mean? And you wouldn't do that. I feel like they wouldn't do that a lot of times with a male, but maybe they have done.
There's definitely myself, right? You changing your prices and all that stuff is this whole big anxiety thing. Oh, I'm gonna lose all my clientele.
Yep. Yeah.
But
so awkward.
There's definitely people who are like, don't see the value in you and what you offer.
Yeah. But I don't even think that it's in you and what you offer. I think that it's personal trainers as a whole.
Oh, well, then people, they just don't understand what they're getting.
And I feel like they're like, when you talk about, I literally think when people talk about personal trainers, they literally put us on the very bottom level of like everything. Yeah. And then it's like, you know what I mean though? And I think that it's so, I'm like, I'm basically your therapist, your friend, your personal trainer, you're all these different things, your person that you can confide in, whatever. But yet, it's looked at as like the lowest level, I feel like, in terms of stuff, you know what I mean? Or like of what price range should be.
Right.
And so, I mean, I know people that'll pay $250 to see a therapist. Okay. But, oh, well, they went to school and like did it up for that. Okay. Even there though, but if you look at a percentage of that, like, you know what I mean? Per session or whatever, there's no problem with them paying that. But when there is that whole discrepancy.
There's this interesting thought of like, if you charge too little, people don't see what you offer and how much value what you're offering it really is. But when, let's say you charge $100 for a session, you get the people who actually, one, see your value, right? See what you offer, because they understand if they're already going $100 a session,
right?
Then you know what?
They're not your people.
I don't want you as a client,
right?
And then two, it holds that you know your value and how much you're worth and how much you give people.
Correct.
So, and it also puts in, all right, people are paying me damn good money to do this.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it to the best of my ability.
Right.
And I don't need to load my schedule up with 20, 30 people just to get by. Right. I can now focus on the people that I have.
Yeah.
And make a big impact on those people's lives.
Yes.
Because we do make giant, like the amount of people who, one, as a trainer, people go tell your trainers that you appreciate them and everything, because we don't hear it that often, but when we do hear it, it
means the world.
It really does, because it's like, we'll see you day in and day out, and we're like, am I making a change in this person's life?
Yeah.
Am I really doing, like I feel like we're getting by, but like, is something really clicking here? And then like, so when I left New York, the amount of people who came out and be like, you really made an impact on on my life, and thank you, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that was like, putting me in tears, and I'm like, what am I doing? I'm leaving these people now.
Right.
But so we do have very high value, and I think just personal training is very, very important.
Yeah. How you I was gonna say, when you look at like with being an entrepreneur and everything like that, because Emily has, I guess, a stable income, right? Like you'd say, like some more like salary based.
Yes.
Okay. So do you find that is that hard, like in your mental, or does it keep you kind of like grinding, keep you kind of focused on like, okay, like, you know what I mean?
I'm a hustler, just
Yeah.
always,
Yeah.
and it is exhausting.
Yeah.
Literally, it's funny. Literally, just yesterday, I was just like, and this is gonna come full circle a little bit, but yesterday I was literally like, I woke up and I was like, I could really use another like client or two. Like,
Yeah.
I'm kind of, I guess I got to get back on my horse. I was getting a little bit too comfortable. Let me go on out there.
Yeah.
I literally, and I said, I speak to the universe at times.
Yes.
And I go, I could really, I need to get back in this. Let me try and get another client. I'm going to put it out there.
Yeah.
I want another client or two, and literally yesterday, as I said it, when I woke up that day, I had 2 leads come right to me. And I was just like, thank you.
Right. No, literally. I was having a conversation with my friend Jesse, and it was like the night before, and then literally after he said some things, and I was like, yep, that's exactly right. Went to sleep. The next day, it was like crazy like that too.
Yeah.
And it was just like, again, I believe that it is the power. Our words are powerful. Mm-hmm. So, and that's where, coming to the whole, like, love your body, and the next question we're going to get into as we wrap up, it's so important to say these things to yourself every day, to say that you're powerful, to say that you're strong, to say that you love, something about your body, because it will change your reality. And I really believe that, you know what I mean? Because you could have sat there and been like, like I just can't do it, and I'm never going to get a client, or whatever, right? And look at the negative, and it's just not. I don't believe that's, our purpose, and that's not how things like are going to work out. And I really do think we have more power in ourselves if we just believe. You know what I mean? And I think that's something too, that when you talked about like the business and stuff like that, like I was listening to podcasts and they talked about this too, that really that you cannot fail as long as you fully immersely believe in what you're doing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I mean, that could be gardening, that could be, what house repair, that could be, training, that could be cooking, whatever. But like, if you believe that it serves a purpose, and it's like you fully then no one can tell you different. You know what I mean? Like, and you can stay in that. And that's where for so long, I'm like, when I thought about that, I was like, wow, me at 24, me at 23, me at 22, even when I didn't know specifically like what Dainty Fitness was going to be, I knew that I wanted people to love themselves, because like all day long, all I heard was negative conversations about food, negative conversations about themselves, negative conversations about their looks. I mean, everywhere I went.
Yeah.
I went to Vermont in a resort, and that's what they talked about. I went to Franklin, and that's what everyone talked about. I went to, Murfreesboro, and like growing up and everything, that's what everyone talked about. I'm like, I'm over this conversation. Mm-hmm. Like, we can have a conversation that doesn't have to do with how much you hate your body, And
it's exhausting at times when you're trying to be
yes.
Because it's like, you understand that all these negative thoughts influence your life in so many different ways, and they start teetering into things that you don't even really notice. And it's like, when you start being around people who are consistently negative, you feel your mood shift and change.
For sure.
So, it's great to have to be that positive energy, because it's like, you'll have someone say something that's negative to you, and then you flip it on them and be like, well, why don't you think about it in this way?
Yes.
And they literally just go like, I didn't even think about that.
But yeah, because again, that's now become the reality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And letting the outside forces and letting all these other things that really are not truly impacting them, but like making that determine that that's how they're going to be, moving forward. And so with that, I always ask the question, what is something that you love about your body?
I love, and it doesn't have to be a specific part, it could just be anything about my body.
Yep.
I love the resiliency that my body has had, and I'll explain that. Mm-hmm. My background is from being injured. I played sports a lot and destroyed my body. I was also diagnosed very early with like a neuromuscular issue in this wrist, where motor neurons died in this wrist. Basically wasn't able to really grip or like connect to anything in my left arm.
Oh, man.
So for me to able to, one, get out of this place of injury that was, and when I tell you I've rehabbed every single part of my body, I've rehabbed every single part of my body, and I'm happy to say that I live mostly pain-free,
awesome.
which, you know, everyone has their pains and issues at times, but this is the best I've ever felt in my life. But the resiliency to be able to fight through these issues that I've had in my body that have literally made me feel weak and down, and like that I couldn't really do much, and be able to get to this point now where I feel stronger. I'm able to be more athletic than I was when I was playing high school sports.
Yeah.
And I have
awesome.
more stability and structure in literally every single part of my joints.
Yeah.
That is just the fact that I've been able to get to here is just a blessing in itself.
That's incredible. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I do want to ask with the neuro stuff, like you said, can that spread, or is it centralized?
What it was called, I was told when I was maybe about like 16, 17, it's called monomelic amyotrophy.
Okay.
And they like loosely know what it's about.
Okay.
We could talk more about like, because we're getting really into like nitty gritty of like what it is and why it happens. Kind of spinal into like a pinching of nerves in the neck that kind of like goes down and has caused like this wrist to not be able to kind of like work. If you look at the difference between my wrists and my hands, one is way more muscular than the other one.
I got you.
It's not because I grip train more on one side than the other. It's just kind of has always been that way.
Yeah.
And I knew that something was up when I was like 13, 14 years old. I still have this memory of bench pressing in my friend's garage, right? Everyone was able to just kind of like do what they were doing. We weren't pushing crazy weight, but my arms would go down. I'd go to push up. I'd feel like I have nothing there, and the shoulder would drop out.
Oh man, okay.
So it's like, what's up with me?
Right.
And then like playing basketball, I always felt like my left hand I wasn't able to make the same moves. I wasn't able to finish the same. It was just kind of like a weird thing. And
so what did they tell you to do for that? Were they just like to strengthen that up?
Rehab. It'll kind of, it won't really spread further. But it's funny because I was just talking about this earlier today. How my body has had to learn to now use this arm. Like my tricep is developed completely different than this tricep. This rear delt sometimes doesn't fire the same way. Like I was doing some like landmine snatches early, and I was just pissed off that I couldn't get it to feel the same at all on both sides.
Right.
And it's just like stuff like that has just been like I've always had to fight through.
Yeah.
And like, because right-handed, I'm strong.
Yeah.
Right? Left-handed, I'm still strong.
Yeah.
But it takes a whole lot more for me to kind of break through that wall and actually connect to the things that I'm trying to connect to.
Yeah. No, I told you like when we worked out, like my left side is like 50%.
Yeah.
And then my right side is pretty much 100%. Like, I mean, from everything from like my eye to like literally every part of this side of my body has either been numb at some point or has scarring or, has been severely sprained or whatever. Right. But that annoying feeling of not being able to truly grip, to not being able, and same thing with like my glutes to activate, and so that's been a challenge for me. I definitely empathize when it comes to that because it's not something someone could really notice. Like no one's looking at your arms and like, Anthony, that right arm's like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, unless they're just, they know you and you've pointed out.
Unless they're rude and being like, you got weird arms, dude.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Or someone's commenting on my backside and like, oh, your right side's a little bit more developed than your left, It's like, okay. But you know what I mean?
Yes.
I always got to throw it in. Hey, there's been some.
I have an interesting, I'll tell you later, but a weird story of some guy just commenting on my butt in public once. And I was just like, okay, thanks.
Yeah. That's a big thing though. People, like I said, it's again, so many people don't, I think it's again, like this awkwardness of like, they don't know how to say things. And I get it, right? Especially in this day and age, you don't know what's appropriate, what's okay, like, and whatever. And so I always just try to tell people, I'm like, just again, strong, like fit, like, capable. Wow. Like you look like, that you're just, let's see, like my girls always ask me kind of like, what's a good term or whatever. And I'm like, you have a strong frame. You know, instead of being like, oh, I'm a big girl. It's like,
Yeah.
no, like you got a strong frame, or like
Yep.
talk kinder to yourself. You know,
Right.
oh, I have big legs. It's like, no, like I have muscular legs, or like, you know, like just trying to reframe like how we speak about ourselves and others too.
That's something I could probably learn a
Yeah.
little bit better in terms of just like, especially how to like, because there are words that make it actually easier to get your message across without
Yes.
kind of like, because you say one thing to one person that to me it feels fine, like
Yeah.
especially saying if you say someone looks thin,
Yeah.
right, and that kind of has like a connotation to some people, or
Right.
skinny, right, has a different connotation to another person,
SKINNY. Yep. Mhm.
right? So it's like learning that vernacular to make sure that like you're getting your message across without
Yes. And
hurting
again,
somebody.
you guys are listening, like as we wrap up, it's like, it's not about, again, saying everything perfect. Like, I just want to explain, like, because everyone's going to take things differently. Some
Yeah.
people, they love being called thick. They're like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm a thick queen or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But others, it's a triggering thing. So you never know. But I think as long as your intention is coming across as like meaningful and powerful, and like, in that you're just trying to empower someone, that is the main goal.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so I think as long as you come from that lens, then someone could have the response like, hey, you know what? I actually don't really like love to categorize myself that way, but I look at myself as very strong too. So thank you so much for that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And again, it can be a difficult topic, but I think like anytime you've ever spoke, you've always come with such a kind energy, like I said before, and I really appreciate you, and love how much you support this mission, and how much you know, like I said, just kind of have taken me in, not just Dandy Fitness.
Yeah.
And that really means a lot, because like we talked about before, of how people can use you or just kind of get ahead, or you know all those things.
Yep.
It's been really nice to kind of cultivate this relationship and see how it grows. So
I agree.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Anthony.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. Until next time. Hey everyone, thank you so much for listening and subscribing to the LYB podcast. If you ever have any questions about wanting to train with Dandy Fitness or getting your movement in, please feel free to reach out to Danny at dandyfitness.com, as well as you can follow me on all social media platforms, Dandy Fitness 1. Also, you guys, if you haven't checked out my Fight Energy supplement, How to Love Your Body book on Amazon, or even just reached out, please feel free to do so. We'd love to connect. Thanks. Awesome.